You know, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that Weekend got soloed, not to make light of it or anything, but the fact that I think that Nocturns, when it comes down to it, their player ability is there. And as J-Mac said, LG came through with the objective play, and that's how Luminosity is going to win this set if they do so. Nocturns has to pay a little bit more attention there. They can push the buttons, and they've shown that they can dance with these guys. You've got to be able to find the stuff after the stuff, though. Nocturns with the first ban, first and foremost, looking for the Morrigan, and LG doesn't want to see Mercury.
And with SmiteVOD playing as well as he did in Game 1, I think that Luminosity focusing on getting him off of a comfort pick is probably a good idea, but you're not going to be able to take away Erlang and Pele, two of the best junglers in the game right now. I think jungle is the role that has the most top-tier talent available as far as god selections go, and so in second pick, you can kind of utilize that to your advantage, unless you really feel like there's one that's really above all the others, in which case first pick is the one at the advantage.
And we can't discount the Circuit that he played in last game. Looked phenomenal on it as well. There's just so many junglers out there available to both of these players. We know the god pool of Weekend, and at the same time here, you know, it's not too far off from SmiteVOD. They kind of have that similar style. They want to be the aggressive, in-your-face players the entire time.
And now Luminosity has a choice to make. Freya, I think, is the obvious ban in my mind at this point, because that guarantees you a top-tier jungler. You're either getting Erlang or Pele, whatever Nocturns doesn't take.
Coach Hathy right there on screen for Luminosity. He's been a lot of the voice behind the scenes for them. Finally, this is one of his first lands that we get to see him on camera. And yeah, it's a long discussion about this last ban, and it's going to be the Freya. And I love where Nocturns go. They go for the Athena rather than the top-tier junglers that we were talking about. Athena is always relevant, global guardian. I mean, how can you say no to Athena?
You can't, and it's a great pick, but Artio Erlang is a really, really good 1-2 punch for Luminosity, and I'm praying that Erlang is not in support, because Inbowned clearly struggled with it very heavily. But Artio is the type of god that I think Inbowned can play very well on. It's an aggressive sort of option. Erlang is as well, but you can get away with a little bit more on the Artio.
Artio, or rather Inbound, he's always seemed, I call the supports on the Aurora scale. Like, how crazy are you willing to play Fenrir and Baka support, right? And I feel like Bobby's in that direction, but not all the way there. So I like to see him on the Bear Mom. I like to see him on these offensive characters that are still support-esque. Whereas Arlong Shen, very, very much just pure offense. Nocturne's going to go back to the Terra, likely to see that on Daelon one more time. And Ram for Zaionsix.
I like the Rama on Zaionsix. He played it very well against Loto Gaming yesterday. He's able to hit those snipes, and that's really kind of the big namesake of Ram on these lands, is being able to hit those snipes, because he's just like a lot of other hunters. He's got steroid, he's got mobility, but his ult is really his big claim to fame. Being able to hit those, Zaionsix was on point all day yesterday against Loto. We'll see if he can do the same thing here against Luminosity.
And this is a pick that I definitely recognize for Zion, and having seen him play on lands before, feels pretty comfortable on that ROM. The Chernobog that he played in the last game wasn't bad, but I never had that, oh man, this is what Chernobog is doing better than any other hunter could do right now. Get him in a pick that he feels comfortable with and can do just the straight up auto attacking a little bit better than Chernobog can.
Hou Yi, the last selection here for LG before we head into ban phase number 2. Character that Clout has, you know, there's not a bad choice for Clout when it comes to LG, I think, and that's one of the luxuries that this team has, and Coach Hathy has kind of inherited it, is the fact that you don't have to worry about Clout selection, really, at all. With that in mind, why do we see it before ban phase number 2?
It's a little curious to see it early up here, but going up against this composition, Hou Yi's one of those anti-objective style gods, and Athena, Terra, they're really great for zoning away from the objective, but the Suns are such a big range, and also the Ricochet being able to bounce throughout the jungle, it gives them that opportunity to get in and get out while not having to be too far into the fray.
I also think Hou Yi is just a pick that Clout can get right here and solo the opposition. I think that you have the opportunity to take solo kills with Hou Yi. Ram can be pretty vulnerable. You can interrupt him out of the roll. You can catch him when he's going up and out of the ultimate. You can do a lot with this Hou Yi, and this might just be Clout saying, I'm just going to do the thing like I did last game, but I was playing Jing Wei. I can't really take my 1v1s. This is a much better 1v1 god than the Jing Wei.
Second round of bans all said and done. No Alpwash and no Circuit for Nocturnes. I think those are fantastic bans out of Luminosity Gaming. Nocturnes, on the other hand, staring down Geno and saying no Vulcan, no Zeus.
Now, Zhang Kui is something that Geno's played a lot of, but I don't know how much I love it with the Erlang Shen. In the Artio, you're not getting a lot of peel. You kind of want long-range damage when I think of Erlang, Shen, and Artio, because they can get in the teeth of the enemy team and still survive and set you up simultaneously. So long-range damage is something I'm looking for here. I think Discordia could be pretty good in this spot, is really, really good against Terra, gets you out of her CCs pretty easily, and gives you good CC immunity against the Athena taunt.
LG going back into Ganesha this time around. What, do you think this is going to go back on to Kiki here? I mean, he did an okay game with it last time, but I mean, it just came down to it's a Ganesh in the late. I mean, really, this Ganesh didn't come online until the late game team fights. And do you think that's the route they got to go back with it, or you think they're going to throw this one to Bobby?
Yeah, I think this might be going back to Kiki just because I assume this will be Terra solo again for Daelon, and I think that Ganesh in the solo lane is largely because of the lane matchup he has up against the Terra. You can interrupt that dash, prevents him from shattering the monolith, so that could work out, I think, for Kiki.
I am very happy, if you couldn't tell from my whatever noise it just was.
It weirded me out.
It's a little creepy.
Well, Bakasura is going to be creeping in the jungle, and I love the combination of Agni here. Baka's a character with little to no control. You want to call his little cripple for half a second? No. But Agni, on the other hand, long-range stun that's going to be paired up with the mid-range stun from Terra, the up-close taunt out of Athena, and you've got Rama and Baka with none of the nonsense, and Anubis with all of the nonsense. And listen, I am not a hater. I know somewhere. I want to give a shout out to the lead designer, Ajax. Anubis is finally getting played in competitive. He's happy somewhere. J-Mac, how you feeling?
I think that this could have been another god, and it would have done just the same thing, if not better.
Anubis is, I was saying, they need long-range damage that can deal their damage from a safe distance. That doesn't happen for Anubis.
No.
Ever. Because he's got to stand still to do the majority of his damage. Look, Grasping Hands is great. So if Geno only has his 3 keybound and the 2, then he'll be safe this game. Otherwise, this Baka could eat him alive. I don't know how Luminosity almost lose game 1 and then go, yeah, Anubis is the pick for us.
Scathing words from Ryan Agro Bally, bringing the aggression out. Nocturns and LG. Game number 2. We'll see if LG can take it. John Finch, Taco, bring us the action.
LG up against Nocturns. Game 2 on the line. Remember, the winner of this set is the one who moves on to play up against Obey, who will have Prime as everything ends up working out for them. Congratulations to their whole family. But this game is the one we're in right now. Trusting the Anubis, Taco, to get it done.
I love it. Anubis into the Bakasura. And SmiteVOD, I think, is going to have a really difficult time if he had any intentions of looking to dive the mid laner in the back line. I highly doubt that Anubis is the one he really wants to try and take the 1v1 with.
No, not at all, right? I mean, I like this, right? Because you don't want to pick someone who's going to be super reliant on their dash anyway, because the Boxer is going to be trying to cripple you and just burn you down really fast. So Anubis kind of is the one you pick, right? Who can just lifesteal, throw down, and try and just win the fight, right?
Well, that's the thing. He just lifesteals through the Regurgitate. If you have all those minions grouped up in one place, you're just giving Geno free HP, essentially. It's already in his intentions to prioritize lifesteal. You can tell from the T2 pickup of what will undoubtedly be a Bancroft's.
Yes, going with the paw strat, we like to say. We saw him do very well with this down in the SML a while ago. Now a very strong mid laner zone right up here in the SPL as well. So we'll see if Geno can make this one work for him. As Inbound is not going back to the Erlang this time. You know, I think Bobby can probably play a fine Erlang if he's not, proxying level 1 for no reason. You know what I mean? No need for that.
That didn't seem like a comfortable Erlang pick, though.
Sure.
Inbound seemed like he was trying to go for a god because he thought that it would give cheesy pressure early on, and it backfired because, honest to God, aggro was right on point with what he said. That did not look like a pick that Luminosity had actively practiced.
Didn't work out for them. They're going to try instead with this Artio, which should have a good game into the Athena matchup. They are able to secure their purple buff as the Rom level 1 with those Astral Arrows able to clear pretty quickly. So they're able to push that wave right on through and head back to their own purple buff instead. But we talked about how this Anubis is going to do when he's worried about the jungler. What about just with this Agni? Are they going to be trading blows that often, or are they not even worried about each other?
Agni has probably the best chances of building Divine Ruin. There's a lot of mages that I think can kind of struggle with trying to build anti-heal against these healer compositions or the self-sustain compositions, because there is a lot of self-sustain for Luminosity right now. But I think that LeaaN will be able to spam Geno with some great AoE damage.
That's why Terra's got to be careful. They did just see him use that leap and they might be trying to lock him down the backside of it. Geno and Weaken coming in for the clash, but SmiteVOD able to make it right on out of there. It's LeaaN who might be in trouble, but dash available, and he repositions. But I am glad you bring up the Divine Ruin. They both built it very early on in Game 1, both of our mid lane mages, so they're certainly not afraid to pick that up if they think it'll help, and it could definitely mitigate a lot of what Geno wants to do in this Anubis, clearly going into the Bancrofts early on.
It's interesting to me, though, to see these solo lane matchups. Kiki again on the Ganesha and Daelon one more time with the Terra. SmiteVOD, the whole that thought, he's trying to run away from Weaken right now, but the turtle form doesn't have that hastened effect on the auto attack spam, so Weaken not going to be able to follow up.
Terra still has a Weaken to worry about in his jungle, who will now disengage, so he can finally try to go back to farming his life like normal without having to worry about an Erlang Shen there. But back over here in the dual lane, they've been exchanging blows for a while. Clout has been looking for some very ambitious ricochets. We'll see if he looks for Zaionsix here, as he is able to find the stun, but it's Noitu who takes quite a bit of poke, and Nocturns once again have to fall back.
Clout just wants the bonus damage. That's all he's really looking for here with some of these bounces, because if you can connect with a nice ricochet, whether it's double or triple bounce, that can force Zion and Noitulover away from the lane, which could then result in Clout and Inbound looking for a buff invade.
Purple buff is just about to spawn, so if they can find that opportunity, they certainly could hop in. Geno and Weaken, though, aggressively moving around the jungle. This is what Erlang can do for you, I feel like, when he's not your support who's behind because of a proc that didn't work. He can be such a bully in these jungle skirmishes in particular.
And that's exactly why they need to watch out for these jungle fights, because Luminosity probably a little bit more favored inside of those jungle corridors. I think SmiteVOD is probably going to end up just using that Regurgitate more so as a cripple activation for an Actives burner as opposed to direct damage dealer.
And has to fall back off the red buff as Geno and Weaken coming aggressively to strip that one away. And I like that they're using these aggressive picks this way, you know, the way that we didn't quite get to see them done last game. When Paul plays the Anubis, he does not just sort of sit back and chill as doing the SML, right? You're looking to sort of bully out the other mid laner, strip away their farm, force a lead earlier on in the game. And this Erlang and this Anubis have been able to do it.
And that's all that you really want. That's why we see Weaken on the Erlang to begin with. He wants that pressure. I don't think that Luminosity want another 46-minute match with Nocturns, because the first one was already cutting it too close.
It's definitely close in game one. They got to be thinking back to it. Or maybe not. I mean, they picked this Anubis. I'm sure they're confident in this pick. I'm sure LG are not picking something that they haven't practiced and worked on, especially in an important match like this. But you think you go to an area where maybe the margin for error is a little bit lower, right, than the Anubis, especially after the scare for game one.
Normally I would agree, but I just think that Anubis is such a strong pick into the Bakasura specifically.
I think it is a good matchup,
that it's more than viable here, because Baka can pose a lot of issues for a bunch of different mid laners between the cripple and just the fact that Baka is most likely going to get a Hasten Katana at some point, at least if he has any intentions of wanting to finish off a kill. You've got to be able to stick to your opponent, and Luminosity could run into the same problem of not having as much hard CC as they would like to deal with Nocturne's initiation, but I also believe that Noitulover is probably going to have to be the overall aggressor here, and that can make things more punishable against Daelon.
That's gonna have to be the idea, right? Is who else aside from SmiteVOD can try and bring some punishment to Geno? And it's not like a normal, not a normal warrior, but like, you know, a Clout over there. Some big warrior is gonna come in and can really stick to you in the backside. As good as Terra is, she's not gonna be the one killing Geno most likely on the backside. So we'll see if that ends up being the route they want to go.
Honestly, I'd rather see Nocturnes try to consistently pressure out Clout, but it's Noitulover who's gonna get blown up before he even has a chance to respond. Geno will get forced out of the purification beads, and LeaaN hoping for a return fire kill. Rama up into the air. Astral Barrage needs one more shot to find it, but Inbound still staying alive until that final auto on the connection.
Zaionsix does eventually find him, but it's a 2-for-1. LeaaN ends up falling as well, but with the Athena coming in, they might want to look for the re-engage. Geno's low, SmiteVOD finds the kill to make it 2-for-2, and they are not done. That's a great pin from Weaken to Route 2, but with Daelon making the rotation, Clout could certainly be in some trouble. If he has the dive bomb, he can try and get over the wall, but he's juking around the Gold Fury. The stun lands. There's the dive bomb to reposition. SmiteVOD wants to jump to follow up. Reach passive is there, and yeah, Clout is he's certainly dead.
Started off really promising for Luminosity and then just backfired because of the Athena. Noitulover, sure, he might have been the first one to die, but These respawn timers aren't exactly super long when you're only level 5.
They made it back in quite quickly. SmiteVOD kind of insisting on trying to confirm this buff and might end up paying for it now that Geno has showed up. The root's there. SmiteVOD still has the jump. Weaken nearby, and now Noitulover comes in to show some face. But that fight, Taco, it really was a big turnaround for them. And you're right, it did initially look good, but Inbound ended up looking pretty low on the back end of that, and Nocturns with the Athena were able to turn things around. Let's go back and see, though, if we can take a look at that first blood one more time, thanks to Respawn, and get that replay going.
It felt like the target focus was a little bit shaky from Luminosity after they found that first pick onto Noito. It didn't seem like Geno and Clout were all that interested in continuing the aggression, but Inbound continued to go deeper into that initiation, and that was the main reason why Nocturns were able to find the turnaround. Inbound kind of just baited all of Luminosity into a bad fight, and they tried to save their Artio, they tried to bail them out of there, and instead they wind up losing 3 members for it.
Geno also got pretty hurt on that initial kill they were able to grab as well, and that's what we're talking about when we talk about the Anubis. You got to kind of sit in place for the ultimate, you know, and someone like Agni can very safely punish you for that, and he did not finish off the Bancross right away. He's got Pen Boots online, so he does have some life still, yes, but maybe not as crazy as it would be if Bancross had been finished right away. That's Clout and Zaionsix kind of, you know, hitting horns.
SmiteVOD trying to make sure he doesn't lose another one of these red buffs to the likes of Luminosity. And all's fair so far. I like that from Zion, though. The immediate respect to not try and push into the corridor to look for any poke-out return damage. He knows the chances of getting ricocheted in that small spot. Why even bother risking it?
Regurgitate comes down. Clout might be in some trouble. Gets out of the cripple field, but the snipes will be waiting. Even Defender of Olympus, they really want to take down Clout, who, remember, was kind of the hero for LG in Game 1. He ends up paying for it. Geno going to drop down the ultimate, but not enough. SmiteVOD just walks away. And
this is exactly where Nocturne's attention should be towards. I think that Clout might have underestimated this Hou-Yi survivability in the laning phase, because you don't have a CC immune ultimate on Hou-Yi. It's probably one of his primary disadvantages in competitive play, because he's so easily collapsible. And I think that if Nocturnes continue to smother the Hunter, that could cancel out Luminosity's late game plan, because Clout kind of bailed them out in Game 1.
He absolutely did, and if they can, you know, limit that in some way, they could be in a much better spot here. But we really have to see Nocturnes kind of clean up their decision-making for the late game in general. I don't think that it was one big mistake, though I do think the Daelon death really hurt them, and that led to the Phoenix. But they made a lot of late-game mistakes that LG were capable of capitalizing on. They either need to get enough of a lead here early to where they have more leeway, or clean it up a little bit late.
And that feels like why the Bakasura came to play to begin with, because if you can continue to expand upon that lead, then good things are bound to happen. Weekend going to get collapsed on right now. Nice wrap there from Geno. Going to return some fire onto Noitulover, but hard to punish Luminosity's Anubis and Erlang.
Weekend is patient with his beads there, so he'll still hold on to them, but Geno had to use them, so those will be on cooldown. The Anubis might be an easy target the next time they come around. A nice 2-man taunt from Noitulover to at least get one set of relics without much commitment from their side. Looks like a bit of rotation from Zaionsix. Another taunt. He can't find it. Gets immediately controlled and blown up. Geno finds the kill. Zaionsix contributing from over the wall, but SmiteVOD falls as well. A double for the Anubis here in the early game, and he's still full HP.
SmiteVOD was just so stubborn in that moment. There was no reason. You already lost your support. Just get out while you can. But because he used the Regurgitate, he felt like he had to continue going in. But I think that's one of those moments where you just have to recognize, at a competitive level of play, I need to back off.
It's unfortunate that not only that SmiteVOD goes in and gives his life away, but Noitulover essentially gets stuffed. That was like going in for the dunk. He was looking for the triple stun and just getting rejected right at the rim. The immediate stun waiting on him, and really nothing he could do on the back of that. They blew him up quite quickly.
You're flirting with disaster anytime you're any god, for that matter, trying to push into an Anubis. Because if that wrap connects, you are most likely dead from the death glaze after.
And that's exactly what we saw end up happening there to Noitulover. And that evens the game back out kill-wise and in terms of gold XP through the 11-minute mark. This one's very, very close. Remember, in Game 1, Nocturnes actually had a small lead for themselves, about 3,000 gold and experience. they were able to build up throughout that early to mid game. This time they don't have that same cushion to work with, and trying to see if they can get enough of a cushion to help them out in that late game is really the overarching goal. Like I said, it's why we think they got this Bakasura, and so far they haven't been able to find much.
Does seem a little bit more composed though for Luminosity after that initial early spill. That was a pre-planned attack onto Noitulover, and SmiteVOD gonna lose those purification beads one more time here. Noito trying to force out the taunt with Geno, but instead eats the laser straight to the dome instead.
It's a great taunt coming out from Weekend as well to stop those autos from going through. That's what allows him to clean up that final kill. Noitulover in some trouble now as he's getting barreled down on by Inbound. Weekend low as well and has to turtle form back out of there. Now it's Inbound who's left on a bit of an island. Kiki comes in with the Dharmic Killer's taunt to keep the Artio moving towards the rest of the team, but they just don't have the follow-up damage. Inbound is out of there, and Luminosity get away clean.
It was only LeaaN there to try and follow up from Daelon's rotation. Nice job there by Kiki, also to save the life of his teammates. I think that had the Dharmic Pillars not come into play, we definitely see a full-on commit there from Nocturns.
That's how Bobby likes to play. He's often the target, often the one getting committed onto, but usually his team's able to find something on the back end, and we see it happen one more time as the rest of the team comes in to make sure he gets a safe exit. But a great fight there in the middle lane. This is the problem that SmiteVOD is going to run into the entire game trying to kill this Anubis. He can just start death-gazing you.
And it's not fun to be on the receiving end of that ultimate, by the way. As long as Geno is on par for the course, it's not going to be easy for Nocturns to find this Anubis out of position and by his lonesome.
Clout is forced out of the purification beads in lane, though, thanks to Noito and Zaionsix's efforts over on the left-hand side. But if we go back to SmiteVOD, looks like he's working now on the Atalanta's bow to go with the haste. And he already has the hasten, so he's going to be sticking to you relatively well. This should give him even more, I guess, movement speed on top of that. So we'll see if we can make them work together. Plus, the defense boots. SmiteVOD, you know, kind of doing his thing.
Don't get me wrong. I definitely understand the temptation to want to go for Atalanta's bow on Bakasura, but when you already have the haste and katana, it's just so unnecessary, and it's such a detriment to his power spike because, sure, you get true damage from the Butcher Blades, and that's all fine and dandy, but what are you going to do when you have Reinforced Greaves, haste and katana, and then an Atalanta's bow? That is not a lot of power, even with the true damage being factored in. I don't think that this Bakasura is going to be able to deal a significant enough blow to force Luminosity off, much less find a kill.
The part that's confusing to me is we've already established that the Anubis probably isn't going anywhere. It is not as if you really need to stick to him, right? He's going to root himself in the ground and try and do more damage than you, as now Inbound is in some trouble. SmiteVOD is chewing through the Artio without any much trouble, and they're able to find a nice kill there, but a lot committed.
But I still feel like that was so much slower than what it would be if he was on a more conventional build. He needed the assistance of that Earthen Fury to really have any sort of serious impact. And if the timing is perfect between Daelon and SmiteVOD, then yes, that is fantastic for Nocturns, obviously, but how often are you really going to get an opportunity for an Earthen Fury and Regurgitate to really play off of each other like that in the mayhem of these teamfight engagements?
Yeah, I'm with you. It does seem a bit unnecessary in this matchup in particular, right? There's no one particularly speedy that you really need to zoom in on. Maybe if he's looking for Weekend, it can work for him there, but look at this. Nocturne would have come back towards the Gold Fury with a bit of an advantage. The rest of LG are nearby. Weekend has his bead forced out, but now it's Noitulover who gets punished. Geno has way too much damage.
Noito doesn't even get a chance to respond. He's down and out for the count before he can even get a chance to run away. The sprint also, I don't think we've really seen many opportunities for this Athena to even pop it.
And Noitu's just a little bit too far forward on the back end of that fight, gets punished, but we're not done yet. Gold Fury now below half HP. Daelon does drop the Earthen Fury, looking for the snipe to Zaionsix. LG confirm the objective and get the kill onto Daelon thanks to Clout. LeaaN is also very low. Weekend finds him. SmiteVOD gets one answer back. Noitu as well to try and make it 2 for 2 so far, and they want more. Zaionsix very healthy and Inbound very low, but able to just barely get out and find the heal. SmiteVOD goes down.
Zaionsix still trying to deal with Clout on the backside, but forgets that he's got company with Kiki and Inbound right behind him.
Nice shot.
Astral Arrow proc gonna find Inbound in the end here. Clout still on the runaway though. I'm not sure Noito's gonna be able to close the gap, not with Kiki right around the corner.
Yeah, if Kiki comes over, this is absolutely done, and Noitu won't be able to find anything there, and Kiki will force him back. That was good from Nocturns to find any kills on the back end of it. That fight looks like it was really going to be a problem for them, but the Gold Fury gets secured, and I think it really does start with Noitu being a little bit too far forward on their initial Gold Fury attempt. They had the vision. They were going to be able to back off, but because of his positioning, the blink caught him off guard, and he ends up getting caught out.
That was probably the best wraparound gank, though, that we've seen from SmiteVOD so far this game. The cripple effect out of that Regurgitate is the main reason why Nocturns were able to find those 3 return fire kills for the Gold Fury, and in a sense, kind of negated Luminosity picking up that Gold Fury to begin with, because the XP and the gold still clinging just close enough between the two that I can't really consider it an advantage.
It is still very, very close between these two teams. Even though the Gold Fury goes down, Luminosity don't come away with it with any huge advantage. And so far, through both games, Nocturns have been able to go largely blow for blow with LG, I would say, in these sets. Last game, towards the late game, LG started to outclass them a bit. But here so far, Nocturns are still hanging with them. They go for the taunt onto Inbound. Clout has a good bit more damage. Horrific Emblem and the slow from the Suns forced the ult and the Aegis out from Zaionsix. He sends Clout and Inbound going, but they expended a lot on their end. Good
return fire damage, but it's that Sentry War that's going to let him know SmiteVOD's running up right to them. He's got the Regurgitate, going to focus out Inbound instead. Kill the bear while he's there, and it won't be there for much longer.
Taco dropping bars, and LG dropping the Pyromancer on the right-hand side. Nocturne's going to have to respond by looking for this Tier 1 tower. They should be able to get this one without any trouble, without any real answer back. And Nocturnes again going blow for blow with LG. 9-9, 18 minutes in, and still very even.
They might keep pushing here. It's only Clout. Kiki will start running up the lane just in time, but I think Nocturnes might have a chance to bring this one down. No, instead they're going to play it safe and run away before Luminosity has a chance to fully collapse on them.
They're going to make sure they get right out of there, especially with Geno coming in. I think they got some information from mid lane that he was making a rotation left as well and didn't feel comfortable sticking around, but they do get some good damage on the Tier 2. It is at half HP, and they should be able to bring it down relatively quickly the next time they head over there. But it's these picks that I feel like, are what's keeping Nocturnes in. They've gotten Bobby 4 times so far, and it's kind of opened up the map a little bit for them to find a tower or some buffs.
Talking about opening up the map, and Daelon's going to do just that, stripping down that solo lane tower, but now it's LeaaN who just gets collapsed on by Inbound. Blink Artio, by the way.
Yeah, Inbound's been able to make it work for him so far with this blink. We'll see if he can keep that up, as they're not able to completely take down this Agni, but they at least force out the Purification Beads, and they'll fall back one more time. But more attack speed coming out from SmiteVOD to go talk to this Bakasura. Yeah,
I'm not sold on blink over a sprint here for Luminosity. I think that one might come back to bite them in the butt, because having sprint to get away from the Baka would seriously be the ideal situation here for a lot of the carries on Luminosity, specifically Geno and Clout. I mean, those two are not going anywhere fast in these team fight engagements. They've kind of just had to rely on their own positioning to stay alive here. And Inbound, sure, he can play aggressive with this blink, but is aggressive really what you want as Artio into the composition from Nocturnes?
Maybe, but I think it might be consistent with their strategy. With this Anubis, they're kind of plant the flag, aren't they? They're not really sprinting around. They're like, well, we'll just do it here, I guess. So maybe that's the idea, right? If Inbound can find the initiation, they'll just fight right there. But sprint's pretty good, Taco. It's hard to not sell me on it.
Killer be killed mentality from Luminosity in a way. Now, 3-man groups up in the mid lane. Laning phase has all but dissipated right now. Anybody sticking around in the lanes, currently, they're just looking for additional little picks of farm wherever they can manage.
Triple Magai's Cloak, though, coming out relatively early for LG, right? We see it on Geno, we see it on Weekend and Kiki, all 3 of them trying to get away from the control, because there's not a ton. It's really the taunts, I have to imagine, they're really trying to get away from.
You can stagger between the cripple out of the Regurgitate, the Daelon's Monolith even, having that root is really nice. LeaaN's also got the ranged AoE stun if he's able to connect with the bombs and that stun. And like you said, the taunt. Hard to go wrong with an Athena taunt anytime.
Trying to see if they can avoid some of that crowd control that you just listed off, as LG are the ones positioning aggressively around the Gold Fury. They've got some more Tier 2, so they've got a little bit of an idea of where Nocturnes are. Gold Fury being burned relatively quickly by Clout. Dharmic Pillars is there to zone everyone away. We can find Zaionsix very early on, and Geno putting in plenty of good damage onto Daelon as well. Gold Fury now under their sights. They've gotten 2 kills, and the objective very likely is there's no way in for Nocturns.
Yeah, that was Geno hitting Daelon, by the way, with the laser beam. Don't sweat it too much, but more importantly, Weekend just decimating Zaionsix. He didn't even have a chance to react. I'm pretty sure he's still, yep, both of his actives not even on cooldown, just get knocked up from the Blink Erlang in that turtle form, and that is the devastation that an Erlang can provide from the jungle.
Yeah, Erlang continues to be pretty good, and Weekend showing why here in this game. I like this much better than the support they were seeing last time. And I think the other key difference is that LG have been able to successfully be the initiators. We saw them still trying it a lot in Game 1, but Nocturns were able to answer. This time, Nocturns having a little bit of a harder time sticking with them on some of these initiations.
Luminosity not even wasting time. They know how much objective secure they have with this composition, and they're looking to take full advantage of it, pulling the Fire Giant, if anything, to bait the engagement just like this. Noitulover going to be the first one to fall victim to this baited trap by Luminosity.
Man, all those slows, it was basically a root in there, man. No way for Noitulover to make it back out inside the Suns of the Dharmic Pillars, and the damage from Geno as well. They find the kill onto the Athena, who they baited in successfully, and now they'll grab the Tier 1 tower.
I'm curious if Geno's going to wind up picking up a Gem of Isolation or not, or if he's just going to leave it to the Dharmic Pillars to rely on the slows for that ultimate. I honestly would not mind seeing that Gem of ISO, though.
It's already been a big problem for Nocturnes they don't seem to have an answer to. As LG consider the Fire Giant for a moment, but they drop it. They'll come back to the Pyromancer instead. SmiteVOD, though, is looping around the backside. Regurgitate forces Beads and Aegis immediately out from Clout on the back end. He has the Defender of Olympus on top of him as well. Geno standing in place, but the Fire Giant's been procced as well, throwing out damage onto everyone. It's Snipe City for Zaionsix as he pulls out the scope and takes down Noitulover.
Weekend, though, trying to play damage control, will end up finding SmiteVOD, but it's going to cost him his life in the end.
Huge.
4-for-1 exchange here as Nocturnes wind up on top, and this could be the Fire Giant.
Huge play from SmiteVOD there, man. He brought the kill threshold down on everyone so low between him and the Agni, then up into the air went Zaionsix to finish off the damage. Now they've got Fire Giant. Clout has no way in to try and defend, and just like that, this game has swung back the other direction. Nocturnes knocking on the door of some towers for LG.
Luminosity just thought that they had the aggressive front on that Fire Giant. They were not expecting that deep wraparound from SmiteVOD, but the timing could not have been better. All of the cooldowns had just been freshly expended on that Pyromancer, so they didn't have anything right away when that Regurgitate came through. You saw Clout actually immediately goes into the Aegis. Same for Geno, I believe, also.
Man, you really got to be extra paranoid around these Fire Giants, apparently, right? When you think about Energy earlier in the year and that move they made looping around the whole map, and SmiteVOD now with the very smart wraparound he was able to find as well in the Bakasura, you really got to check your back as well, apparently. Even on the Pyromancer this time is where they end up getting punished, and now Nocturnes are right back in this match.
With SmiteVOD having just finished off that chin size, though, now it could be a problem here for Luminosity. Not as much anti-heal, though, as I probably would have liked to see. They do have the Divine Ruin on the Agni, but putting a little bit of too much pressure, I feel, onto LeaaN to try and proc that anti-heal against this self-sustaining comp from Lumi.
But this is the part I don't get about the hasten Atalanta's, right? He wasn't running anyone down in that fight. He like drops the Regurgitate down, and it's just this big clumped up fight that he hits everyone. I don't know.
I've still got my fingers crossed this winds up being a Stone-Cutting Sword or a Titan's Bane somewhere down the road. But until then, we're just going to have to sit and wait and see how this one plays out, because Nocturnes have only covered half the battle so far.
That's right.
Even though they have the Fire Giant, these sieges are nowhere near guaranteed, and Luminosity know it, which is exactly why they're trying to play defense underneath this T2.
And they did the same thing in Game 1. They're not letting this Fire Giant instantly be a bunch of free gold for Nocturnes. They're going to have to prove they can do these sieges correctly with Weekend waiting. Blink, I'm sure, primed to try and find some nice knockups and a big setup for the rest of his team. They're trying to force their way into the Tier 2 tower now. Weekend still very patient over the wall. Dharmic Pillars, and there's the knockup. Earth and Fury, though, is good from Daelon to hit everyone. Big taunt back in right into the Suns is good damage for LG, but Inbound and Weekend have got to run. But they defend the tower for now.
But Zion survives. That's the big thing that I'm really looking at. Their Hunter, they're clear for these structures, managed to live through all of that focus, because Luminosity weren't looking at anybody else from Nocturne. They just wanted Zion. and they couldn't find him. So now they're forced to fall away from their T2 tower. They're forced to try and make this last stand on their Phoenix, and Nocturns might not want to stick around.
A little bit surprised they're trying to force this one down, and Noitulover is the one who gets caught off guard. The wrap is there, and really nothing that the Athena can do. An easy kill for LG underneath the Phoenix, and now Nocturns will go running with their tail between their legs. But you're right, Taco. LG committed so much to try and get that kill into Zaionsix. It was Beads, Aegis, and the Earth and Fury.
2 blinks onto the Ram, staggered cooldowns also. It's not like Luminosity dropped everything all at once. It was just beautifully played by Zion. Perfect Aegis, perfect Beads, and a perfect time on that ultimate.
Able to get him out of trouble. So it will win them a tier 2 tower, but not much beyond that as the Gold Fury goes the way of LG, courtesy of that pick they found on Noitulover underneath the Phoenix. And we fall back towards nearly even yet again. It does, every time I think that LG gets a blow that Nocturns won't respond, Nocturns find a way to get one off-balance punch back in. As we just passed the 27-minute threshold, this game is still very close.
They are just so close to an upset match, and I think if Nocturns even finds the one, that would be such a massive blow against Luminosity, not even factoring in the egos, but it's just the momentum swing in general.
That's right. If you're LG, and I'm sure a team with Weekend on it is not just looking to do well at this LAN, they're looking to be, you know, number 1, number 2, one of the ones qualifying all the way through and beating everyone else. But if you want to beat some of these other teams, you gotta think that in these early matches, the one you're supposed to win, that you need to look really, really clean in those. And Nocturns have shown, I think, some weaknesses, some gaps in this LG team.
I think Luminosity even understand, hey, this is not anywhere near as clean as we wanted it to be.
Right, yeah.
And we've got to start delivering or performing. It's one or the other. Otherwise, they will end up dropping a match, if not the set, to Nocturns.
Well, it is LG trying to force down the tier 1 and right, but look over left. SmiteVOD is going to be able to grab a tier 2 over here relatively for free. There's no one nearby to stop him here, so he's got to trust the rest of his team in the 4v5 to defend to make this a favorable trade. And with LG backing off, that's a nice win for Nocturns as SmiteVOD found.
But look at SmiteVOD. Seems like he's trying to cut off the members of Luminosity. Kiki forced it back to prevent any sort of Phoenix push because it's not like he had any idea whether or not SmiteVOD was going to keep pressuring in. And now Kiki going to wind up using that teleport a little bit preemptively here to make it back to the fight.
Kiki drops down the Dharmic Pillars. That's been a key cooldown for them so far. To lose a little bit early in the engage, and Noitulover again stunned inside the damage from Geno on this Anubis, but he does make his way back out, but that shell expended. Now it's Daelon caught out into silence, but he makes it away as well. LG have very nicely baited quite a few cooldowns from Nocturns, and now they're going to start up the Fire Giant.
Daelon does have teleport. He should back to base and then teleport back in. He's just not healthy enough to want to stick around on his own accord. Got that Athena ultimate on him right now, though, and the damage mitigation could not have been better timed.
SmiteVOD again, though, with a wraparound on the backhand side. Zaionsix with the snipes helps his boy out. SmiteVOD finds the double. LG now reeling off the damage on this Bakasura. Dharmic Pillars back up again, and Kiki just barely makes it out, but LeaaN able to find inbound. LeaaN finds the double, taken down Clout. Kiki gets at least one, but Zaionsix finds the deicide. Nocturnes
mid lane.
Send LG back.
That might be game. Finch, they can just push down the mid lane Phoenix. They have a wave in the mid lane. There's another one that's approaching. Just look at all these archers. I think Luminosity might have just lost.
They gotta gas pedal this, though. They gotta keep moving. They need to get Zaionsix here in line right away. But what a huge fight. Twice in this game, SmiteVOD was able to wrap around the backside of LG and catch them sleeping. 18 plus seconds. Weekend will be back up in 13, but the whole team is here. Minus LeaaN. They're gonna try and burn down the Titan quickly before anyone from LG can respawn. That's game 1, or game 2 rather, the first for Nocturns going their way.
Daelon's so excited, doesn't even bother resetting that Titan, didn't want to take any chances whatsoever, and that is going to be a loss for Luminosity. The series is all but tied up, and we're headed to a game 3, Finch.
And we said it, this was going to be the closest set, I think, with these international teams, right? Nocturns have continually showed us how strong they can look up against the best of NAEU, and LG sleep a little bit on that Fire Giant fight, and that's really all that it takes for them to wrap around.
And Nocturns, they've got to be proud with themselves for that performance, man. Again, though, SmiteVOD could not be better with these Bakasura flanks. Every single time that you think Luminosity is about to have a solid disengage, they're just caught inside of that Regurgitate, inside of the Cripple Field, and then the panic ensues.
And it's a little bit of an overcommit, I would say, onto Daelon as well. What really makes that fight work is that they get the Defender of Olympus on top of that Terra, and they all kind of funnel in a little bit too much. That's the tunnel vision, the little bit of lack of focus that allows SmiteVOD to move in that moment and start chunking down the entire team. Zaionsix is great with the snipes as well, and that means we're going to game 3.
And I'm honestly a little bit in disbelief here, but I couldn't be happier because Nocturns, they have been grinding all year long for this chance. They've been talking about it for ages now, about this opportunity, and now it's finally arrived.
And this is a win they've absolutely earned. Let's see if they can get it done in game 3, or will LG find a way to close it out? Let's get it back over to the desk.
Wonderful job there on the cast, and as a commentator myself, I have to say that it's easy to cast games when they're that damn good. A game 2 brought to us, and Nocturn's going to take this one down. Not the first time Weekend's been beat by Latin America.
No, but he hasn't been eliminated yet. This is a best of 3, so we'll see if they're able to bounce back Luminosity and find this victory. But what a performance from Nocturns. I really thought that game 1, as soon as they didn't win that, this series was over. Because so often we see these international teams show up, have one good game, and then lose all the air in their tires and fall flat in game 2. But Nocturns did anything but there.
I mean, they were turning me into a believer with this Goobus for LG, but then late game, they just started grouping up, holding hands too much, and Bakasura just came in with the cleanup.
I mean, this was really, really impressive. Post-game stats brought to you by Axis Replay. And Nocturns here, like I said, just extremely impressive.
Nocturns just played really, really well. That's what Anubis does. I mean, he gets ahead, he does good stuff in the early game, and then he just gets obliterated in the later stages because he has to stand still to deal his damage, and he wasn't insta-killing the target selection that Luminosity was choosing for him. Weekend played a lot of these fights really, really well. It's just that it eventually, all it takes is one bad fight where your initial burst from Anubis doesn't kill someone. Now he's out of position. Now your whole team is out of position. And SmiteVOD's instincts, his pathing so many different times this game was phenomenal. And it's all him that ends the game here with this last fight around fire.
And this is what you do with this draft, with this Bakasura selection. We highlighted all the control coming out from LeaaN and Noitulover, and that just allows Baka to really do his thing. This was the game plan from minute 1, was for just give the ball to SmiteVOD in the late game and let him win the game for us, and that's exactly what they did.
It also, don't forget, Luminosity was in serious control this game. This pathing is just perfect. Stays off that ward, and then blinks in perfectly. But Luminosity was in control, and then they pull the Fire Giant after getting a pick, and then decide, we can't really do this, let's go Pyromancer instead. They take so much time there that then that's where Nocturns really went. They 4-for-1 them at that Pyromancer. Nocturns gets the fire, and then they get all the momentum. I think that Inbound is definitely, he's used to being a leader on his teams. I don't know if it was him who called that Fire Giant and the rest of the team has to call it off, or if he's the one saying, no, we can't do fire. All I know is that Luminosity definitely isn't all clicking on the same cylinder right now, and that's what ends up losing them that game.
That's the key right there. I say it all the time. Hesitation leads to devastation, and I didn't see any sort of stoppage coming out from Nocturns, whereas LG, their decision-making, even when it was sound, was kind of bumpy. They don't really seem to, like Ryan said, be on the same page. If you're Coach Hathey here, J-Mag, what are you telling your team right now in the player break to get them ready for Game 3 and a victory?
Really, you got to pay attention not only to what you're picking, but what your enemy is building into it. I saw a lot of damage reduction based items, Spirit Robe, Shell, all things to really mitigate what the Goobus that they had going to late game did well, is do a lot of damage. Well, when you get that hard CC, you can't do all that good damage.
Very true. Right now we're looking at Inbound. Before that was SmiteVOD, and he certainly looks comfortable and confident. Hindu Man was saying that some of the other members on Nocturnes just look very quiet and confident coming into the arena today. And I think that's a big point. Talking about the international teams, like we said, these guys have plenty of experience. They've been here before, and they've even beaten Weekend in a game before. But a big point, like you said, best of 3. Now it's down to a single game set. We're really looking to see if Nocturnes has what it takes to be the first international team to win a set. And I got to be honest with you, I think the ball is up in the air. I think this third game is really just who comes out and plays.
I think in total game time so far, Nocturns has had the lead and looks like the better team in more total game time through 2 games.
That's incredible, because you also mentioned, you know, how we're used to seeing these international teams, excuse me, and we watched international teams for the first 12 minutes. It's very easy to kind of get baited into the excitement of will they or won't they, and then 15 minutes in, a Gold Fury goes bad and the top card team winds up winning. This was very different. They were tied for 40 minutes in game number 1. Game number 2, a very similar situation. So this is a much different story than I think we're used to seeing.
I think the big thing is seeing the bounce back here from Nocturnes. So many times they fall behind and then that's just it. You close it out there, but Nocturnes coming back into the game is the big important factor for them. That's going to be a huge momentum drive for them into this game 3.
There's going to be a lot of emotion right now on both sides. I mean, Luminosity is going to be frustrated, annoyed that they have to play this game 3 in the first place. They probably don't think they should have to. They expected to come in here and win pretty easily if you just listen to what Clout was saying before the set. But they have to be able to move past that and stay focused. And on the other side for Nocturnes, their adrenaline's going to be high. They just beat an SPL team. That doesn't happen for a lot of international teams, but they still have to be able to stay focused themselves and not get too over happy, you know, too over anxious and try and jump in there right away. And they have to be able to play within themselves.
That's why I'm loving this body language from Nocturnes. They just look locked in. They've just, this whole time they've just been talking and conversing. SmiteVOD had his hands, you know, around his head, just kind of hanging out, just not overly excited, like you said, which can absolutely take advantage. Looking at the other side, though, LG body language very, very negative. Kiki right there, not his usual smiling self, and we definitely caught a glimpse of. We've all seen Weekend streaming and frustrated. We saw the Weekend face.